Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Chris here, cgaviator, former fast jet flying instructor, and in this video I'll be flying a particularly difficult approach. If you're interested to see how naval aviators get from up here to down there where the ship is, then this is the video for you. So in this video we'll be flying a case 3 approach with an overhead join for the ICLS, aka the Needles, and an arrested landing, because this is the F-35C. It has a hook, it doesn't hover. And this, of course, is Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. Absolutely stunning. First things first, the setup. We're 6,000 feet for the Marshal. We're 250 knots on the auto throttle. The TACAN is set at 079 X-ray, and you see the TACAN symbol is passing down the left-hand side. That is our ship. That is Mother. So we want to turn back inbound and go down this centre line, which we've set up as 195. More on that in just a sec. If you've got any comments, by the way, chuck those, or questions, put those in the comments down below. And this chapter is available if you want to skip ahead, but I'll be giving you all the nuance of flying the real world procedures along the way. So you can see that TACAN, the ship, is about 3 miles off. We're diverging away because we're a little bit tight. Using the ground speed at 255 knots, we take 1% of that. Our turn radius is 2.5 miles, so we're a little bit tight. Our main aim, all we want to do here is not necessarily hold at the Marshal, it's just to turn around and get everything centralised. More on that as well in a sec. Right, I think that'll do. Let's start turning inbound. So on the plates, we have a marshal point that is offset 30 degrees upwind from the FB, or the final bearing. The final bearing is what we set for the inbound course to land on the deck. And of course the deck on typical aircraft carriers are angled off about 8 to 10 degrees away from the course of the ship. It's worth bearing in mind, I'll keep referencing this main screen down below because you can see that a lot clearer than the helmet mounted display equivalent up here, bar the fact that, just to point out, I've got TACAN information to the lower right of that. That does disappear when we start messing around with the ILS. Right, so down here we can see that the small arrow, tail end is about 040, that's pointing directly at the TACAN at all times, so it kind of gives us good essay on which way the ship is. The course that we've set in is this big arrow, and you can see the middle part of that big arrow is deflected to the top of the HSI. This compass rose is a HSI, and that is the course deviation bar is currently showing full scale deflection. What we want is the small arrow pointing to the TACAN to line up with the big arrow, and at that point the deviation bar will be in the middle and they'll be aligned on our radial. So here it comes. If I was marshalling properly, then I'd do a proper hold, but all we're trying to do is line the things up so we've got a nice stable inbound course. That is working out nicely, and you can see the TACAN for the ship is dead ahead, the course deviation bar is there or thereabouts, and as long as we're inside full scale deflection, then we're inside the cone of the TACAN and we can think about the next event. The wind, by the way, is 357 at 19, so northerly wind at 20 knots. And our next event here is to pass overhead the ship and then get outbound to the south of the ship by 4 miles before we start to descend. But I'll notice as we go overhead, so inside about a mile, we're 1.7 miles away from the carrier. Once we pass through the overhead of the TACAN, it's entering a zone called the zone of confusion, and you'll notice the small arrow that points to the TACAN will disappear. It may start getting a bit sensitive, as in you can see the needle start to move, and then it disappears, and then we can expect that to come back right now, and we can finesse our course outbound. So we're now outbound, we're south of the ship, and we're waiting for 4 miles, and we can start the descent. So in the descent, we can select about 10 degrees nose down, we can descend at 4,000 to 6,000 feet a minute. Once we get to platform, so on this approach platform is 5,000 feet, once we get there we'll slow our rate of descent to 2,000 feet a minute. Whilst I remember, if you're interested in precision approaches like this, I've done an arcing manoeuvre into case 3 in a hover landing, and I'll link some videos at the end. 3.3 miles. Alright, this is where it starts getting a little bit more busy. 4 miles. Looking at the velocity vector, putting that 10 degrees nose down. We're descending to 2,000 feet, platform is at 5,000 feet. Auto throttle's doing its job, and 5,000 feet for platform there. We'll select about 4 degrees nose down, and that'll give us 2,000 feet a minute. So rate of descent here you can see just here. And we'll continue on down to 2,000 feet. Now our next event is 10 nautical miles, not before, so that's our DME, so we're currently at 6.4. Not before 10, we can start a left-hand turn inbound to the carrier. But the priority is getting down to 2,000 feet, so we will keep on this heading until we achieve 2,000 feet and 10 miles. And breathe. It seems like there's plenty of time in these moments of calm, but I'll tell you what, if you're not perfectly on parameters, you'll fight it all the way down. Okay, 3,300 feet for 2,000. All looking good. You can't see the TACAN for the ship on the display because it's now in our 6 o'clock. There's 10 nautical miles, but we are only at 2,800 feet, so we'll continue on down. And it looks like we're about to hit the top layer of the cloud. Bye bye sunshine. 500 feet to level. 300 feet to level. 2. 1. And level. We can start turn to the left. I think about 25 degrees, we'll work that out. Next event is to establish ourselves inbound on the final bearing and the ILS. This is where it starts getting tricky because the ILS for the aircraft, for a stealth aircraft, the aerials are in the nose wheel bay. Because you don't want your aerials dangling outside of the aircraft because it's stealthy. So we can open the door, there's a nose door button there, at less than 300 knots. But I don't want to do that too early because you'll lose the TACAN information here. I'll still have it in the head-up display. So what I'll do is I'll align the TACAN roughly with the FB of the ILS. So I'll set that here, 3, 5, 2. Now it's slightly off from what I'd expect it to be, but I've practiced this, so it might be that the TACAN and the ILS aren't perfectly located on the ship, but we'll work with it, it's fine. Okay, next event. We need to get down to 1,200 feet by 10 miles inbound and be established on the FB, on the final bearing. So it gets pretty darn busy. We are currently at 14.9 miles. We want that TACAN to start coming in. There it is. And what I'll do is I'll open the nose. I can start descending down to 2,000. Open the nose, you know what I mean. Nose wheel bay door. I'll start the descent down to 1,200 feet. And I'll select an angle in to get the ILS. And select ILS here. Okay, I'll keep that descent coming down. We're currently at 13.6, so plenty of time. And we're waiting for the ILS indications to start coming in as well. Here they come. Told you it gets pretty busy. 1,400 feet for 1,200. 1,200 feet. There we go. Just slightly through the centre line. I'm happy with that. To be honest, I'll take it. I will take it. Alright, we are established at 11.8 miles on the centre line at 1,200 feet. I'm going to keep the speed up at 250 knots for a little bit longer, maybe till about 8 knots, because we can slow down very quickly to 150, and then we'll slow down further to on speed. Just scanning the instruments down here and scanning the needles. So the vertical line gives us lefty-righty navigation and the horizontal line gives us the glide path. At this stage I'm going to go autopilot. I'm going to select speed hold to 150 and it's going to start slowing us down and we can configure. Range is 8.7. Betty might start telling me about gear in a minute. Here comes the gear. And I probably should have done it earlier, also the hook. There we've got 3 greens and you can see the hook symbol up there. Right, the E bracket on the head-up display is slightly above the velocity vector, so what I need to do is slow down maybe a smidge, call it 145. Try speed, 145. Okay, looking good. Looking good. The top of descent's going to be around about 3 miles. We're at 6.7 miles. Just flying those needles all the way in. Minimums for this, for the jet, for fast jets, I believe is 360 feet, 3/4 miles. That might be different. I might be using old documents, so don't quote me. Also, it's worth bearing in mind, if you're one of those guys that does this for real, kudos to you. Feel free to comment, if you can, on anything that I've done wrong. I'm sure there's a couple of things here and there. Okay, range 5.3. Five miles. Looking good. We've got gear, we've got hook. We're on the localizer, flying the needles, just waiting for that horizontal line to start coming down. And that'll be an indication that the glide path is almost there. And we should be ready for descent. About 3-degree glide path on this. Wind is 350 at 20. Slightly right of the centre line. Small corrections. Looking good. Okay, that horizontal bar is now coming down. Range is 3.6, so that checks. After landing, stick around, I'm going to show you the 3 things that you want to remember after landing. Approaching descent point, see that horizontal bar approaching the velocity vector. I'll just lower the nose and cruise on down 3 degrees. Getting busy. Getting busy. Busy of mind, calm of input. Small corrections. Slightly high. Through 960 for 360, you can just see the carrier breaking out. What I'm going to do is switch over to night. It seems that my animations have stopped. I don't know why that is. Small bug, it doesn't matter. We'll follow this down to the landing. Speed's good, on speed. Slightly low, slightly right. 600 feet for 360. At this stage I can call the ball. You can't see it. It's a bit small on this and you can have it set up so you can see it, but I won't need it for today. Looking good. Not bad.
Throttle. Throttle.
Manual control. A little bit high. Looking good. Looking good. Alright, we are down. 3 things we need to remember. We're going to fold the wings. Like that. We're going to raise the hook. Like that. I'm going to set the nose wheel steering to high. You can see it in the head-up display. And then we're going to taxi in and follow the marshal's direction. But until the next time, thanks for watching, take care, and fly safe.